This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
Brother Jamal. Brother Jamal thinks the town is stupid. He thinks you've all forgotten. And that this is somehow, and of course I'm making reference to the imminent closure of the Coliseum Theatre. This is somehow the nasty Tories giving northern towns some more nonsense. Of course it isn't. For over 10 years now, the council has failed and failed and failed again to deliver a cultural offer in the town centre. And all the time, it has coveted the land that the Coliseum is built on. Guess what for? Guess who for?
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
I've been collating information for some time on the Coliseum because all is not as it seems, and all is not as it has seemed in any way, shape or form whatsoever for at least 10 years. It goes back to James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon, and to be fair to him, it goes back probably further. What has happened to the Coliseum and what is happening to the Coliseum is more than a shame. It is a sham. It is a political football now attempting to be exploited by individuals who I bet will not issue a statement confirming when it was that they last actually went to the Coliseum, if they've ever been at all. Of course, for many of you, just like myself, my first theatre experience was the pantomime at the Coliseum. I've been struggling to recall exactly which one it was. It was an infant one, by the way. I'm not sure what that is. That reception? Infant one, reception, by the way. And I remember getting on a coach from Richmond Infant School, going to the Coliseum, and it was the first time I was in a theatre, and I can't work out whether it was Mother Goose or Jack and the Beanstalk. I'm thinking it was Mother Goose that I went to see. And of course, the school took us every year, just like schools across the town take their children every year. And for many of us, that is one of the cultural anchor points for all of us. Okay, let's start with what Jim McMahon had to say. Now, remember, the Coliseum failed in its bid for Arts Council England money in November. So they've known since November what was going to happen or likely to happen. The chief executive at the time did a runner or left, Oldham Council style, or was pushed, I'm not quite sure what, and he's the latest in a succession of chief executives, poor chief executives, and I'll get to that in a minute. Very, very poor chief executives who've overseen the decline and decay of the Coliseum. Council stooges, fake liberals, you know what they are now. Overpaid, underskilled, inappropriately qualified. Let's bring up what Brother Jamal had to say. Jim McMahon's Facebook page. You can see there. And I'm going to read it. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt first and read it. There has rightly been a significant local and national interest following news that the historic Oldham Coliseum Theatre could be lost forever. Okay, I'm going to pause just on that there. Just on that, I'd like to pause. There has rightly been a significant local and national interest following news that the historic Oldham Coliseum Theatre could be lost forever. Okay, it's historic in the main because of where it's located and the historic building it occupies. Jim McMahon has been one of many politicians who's been trying to move the Coliseum away from land that it desires for alternative purposes, that this council desires for alternative purposes. So this nonsense about historic should stop, because he has no right to use it as though he's trying to save the historic Coliseum, because he's not trying to save the historic Coliseum at all. But let's carry on, and you'll see how many times he makes reference to these statements. As a local MP, I am committing to doing all I can to help secure its future, and I meant it. How has he been helping to secure its future? Yesterday, I held meetings with Oldham Council and Debbie Abrahams. So that's on Friday, held meetings with Oldham Council and Debbie Abrahams to discuss the current threat and how it reached a point of crisis ahead of its planned move to a new venue in the town centre. Outright lie. Outright lie. A planned move would have clarity over where they are moving to, what is being built there, how much it's going to cost, who's going to pay for it. That's what a planned move means, not whatever it is McMahon, the samosa nibbler, thinks it means. Further meetings are taking place next Monday, so that's tomorrow, with Arts Council England and Shadow Secretary for Culture, Media and Sports and neighbouring MP Lucy Powell. Why? The Arts Council are independent. They gave grants according to merit. Believe it or not, is that not what we want, according to merit? The Coliseum is a poorly run theatre, and I'll get to that. Where we'll be seeking support to secure the immediate future of the theatre. See what does that mean? The immediate future. Secure the immediate future. It's funded till the end of March, by the way, because that's how the funding cycle works. And why are you going cap in hand to the Arts Council? Because I will show you at some point this evening where I can, like this, pull out £600,000 from the council's existing budget. We know how important this is, not just for the place it has in all our hearts. Had such a place in all our hearts, Jim. You've never said anything about it. I don't remember you hanging out at the Coliseum in the way you hung out in mosques nibbling samosas. With treasured memories and the family outing to the Panto. See? The Panto. Did you go to the Panto there, Jim? No, you didn't, did you? Because you're not from my town. Fraudster. You're not from my town. You're not Jim from Oldham. The only reason you came to Oldham was to pursue a political career. But also the appreciation that to have a producing theatre is something unique Oldham has been proud of. Why is it unique? Many towns have a producing theatre. What's unique about it? These theatres are as critical to the arts as grassroots programmes are to football in the UK. Well, my Oldham Athletic fans all of you will know how we nearly destroyed Oldham Athletic with that dodgy loan grant, whatever it was, with the American shysters who were in charge before, with the land swap deal. Did the police not get involved in that? This will not be an easy fight. Who's fighting, Jim? And there will be many barriers in the way of securing its long-term future. But we owe it to the town to do all we all. All we all? All we can, maybe he means? Doesn't even spell check or grammar check his posts. We need to harness the outpouring of support locally and beyond as a rallying call, and we need help from government and arts bodies to see a positive outcome. So he's jumping on the bandwagon. That's what he's saying there. He's jumping on the bandwagon, and he's jumping on the bandwagon. He's issued a joint statement with Debbie Abrahams and Councillor CHADDERTON. And this is their joint statement. The Coliseum has been the jewel in the crown of Oldham's cultural office since 1885. That's actually not true. There was a range of theatres in and around 1885 and throughout the early parts of the 20th century, of which the Coliseum was just one of them. But what would this chancer know? And it would be shutting its doors at the end of March after losing its Arts Council funding. Well, you've known since November and you've not said a word. This is more than a fight for one town or one theatre. Towns like ours depend on cultural organisations like the Coliseum, so it's immediately politicising this. We will fight unreservedly for a thriving, innovative Coliseum Theatre Production Company. What are those words? Because the Coliseum Theatre Company is neither thriving, is neither innovative, and it is not the beating heart of Oldham's cultural offer. And it hasn't been for a long time. We will be demanding, see the words like this, we will be demanding, fighting. It's not your money, you samosa nibbling piece of shit. You're the one that got us in this mess. You're one of those who got us in this mess. What are you going to do? My name is Jim McMahon. Give me the money. I have 10,000 Muslim postal votes. We'll fight unreservedly for a thriving, innovative Coliseum Theatre Production Company, which is the beating heart of Oldham's cultural offer. We'll be demanding that the Government Arts Council England and others work with us. Who are others? Work with us to secure a sustainable future for this now and for generations to come, and he's put a photograph up with terms on it of when and how that photograph can be used. Let's get through some factual inaccuracies first. And I know some of this because I have worked with the Arts Council a long time. I've written bids, been part of bids for millions of pounds. And I've found the Arts Council consistently to be a fair funder. As far back as I can trace back the official records, the Arts Council has been funding the Oldham Coliseum something like £600,000 a year for 15 years or so. So the Arts Council has already given the Coliseum, just on running costs, over £10 million. And about 10 years ago, there was the best part of £2 million on top of the running costs invested to help refurbish the Coliseum. And at that time, the decision was taken in partnership with the council and the Arts Council, and Jim McMahon was more or less in charge at that point, or a prominent figure at that point. And in the early years of negotiation with the Arts Council subsequent to that the Coliseum would need a new venue. And it was up to the council, because the Coliseum, those of you who believe the Coliseum are a separate entity to the council, you're deluded. They're not, and I'll show you they're not. It's one and the same. It's just a proxy. The Coliseum is just a proxy of the council, no different than I know how Northern Roots is, for instance. We all know who's pulling the strings. It's the council. So the Coliseum was meant to move. And of course, that back end of Yorkshire Street, all the way up to the old post office, the old sports centre, moving into the back of the town centre, Tommyfield Market and so on, has been earmarked for housing for the Coldust and St Mary's overspill. The Bangladeshi overspill, that's already expanded into St Mary's. And also the immigrant overspill, the black immigrant overspill, the asylum seekers, the refugees who have settled at the top end of Coldust and are expanding in similar fashion. Unless you believe Sean Fielding's claim that people will choose to live in those areas rather than living in Saddleworth. The Arts Council even earmarked over £7 million. Arts Council, Heritage England, that sort of stuff. Over £7 million between them in match funding for a theatre. A purpose-built theatre. And one scheme after another has failed. led by Jim McMahon, Jean Stretton, Sean Fielding, Arud Shah, and now Amanda Chaddderton. And the £8 million, not only did they have to give back, they also blew over £3 million of your own money in paying consultants and fees and their best mates and stuff like that. Nothing new in this town. Over £3 million on record. And the Arts Council essentially have had enough. Now, when you are a funder and you funded an organisation consistently, £600,000, earmarked millions for building costs, I think you've demonstrated your commitment to the town. Wanting a fight with that funder is wanting a fight in the wrong place, McMahon, you prick. You and your Labour Party politicians are the reasons why this town is in a mess, and it is exactly the same with the Coliseum. So much so, have the Art Council lost all faith in the Coliseum, that not only have they decided to pull the funding, what they've said, and they've been very clear on this, is that the £1.8 million that the Coliseum bid for over 3 years, so £650,000 a year, give or take, they've ring-fenced that money to negotiate with the Oldham Council alternative investments. Because continuing to fund the Coliseum in the way it is being funded is throwing good money after bad. I'll show you how you're not being told the truth and have not been told the truth for some time now on this.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.